All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, I remember when I was a kid and I saw Rocky 4. I've always thought that the pivotal scene in that film was after round 2 when Rocky was fighting Drago and he actually hit him with a left hook and he cut him. And of course, a brawl ensued. Drago pinned him against the ropes and hit him upside the head. And then Rocky picked him up off the ground and threw him onto the canvas. And then, you know, of course, the cornermen jumped in from both sides and there was a big brawl, so on and so forth. But after Rocky's trainer, Duke, who used to be Apollo Creed's trainer, got him back to the corner, he looked in Rocky's eyes and he said, "You cut him, you hurt him. You see, he's not a machine, he's a man." Why am I saying all this? Because oftentimes when we follow these great transcendent athletes, we think of them as machines, as supermen. And then they show one sign of physical vulnerability, and that is when the entire facade comes off of them. And I think that we saw that with Mr. LeBron James in the Christmas Day matchup against the Golden State Warriors, where he was attempting to do what LeBron likes to do, which is fake hustle. He was lunging for the basketball, and then he suffered a groin injury. Now, how severe the groin injury actually is, who knows? But I do believe that that is going to be the first in a long line of injuries that he is going to endure as a member of the LA Lakers, because sometimes that happens that way. Many great athletes suffer a major injury that we're told they're going to recover from, and they're never the same again. I remember watching the NFC Championship game in 1991, I believe it was. The Giants against the San Francisco 49ers. And I believe the Giants were trailing at the time, 13-12. And the great Joe Montana, he stepped back to pass the football. And Leonard Marshall, one of the defensive linemen of the Giants, came up behind him and basically just demolished him. I believe he might have cracked a vertebrae in his spine. And Montana was never the same after that. And I believe that he was 34 years old, just like LeBron James is. He tried to come back. By then, Steve Young had taken his job, and they moved on from Joe Montana. And of course, he was able to have 2 relatively successful seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he was never the same. And I believe that LeBron James understands that there is a certain level of mortality to his career, because he's starting to reminisce over shit that he should not be reminiscing about while he's still playing. That to me is a telltale sign that he knows that there's a very high probability that he's not going to win a championship with the Lakers unless Magic Johnson himself and Adam Silver can put their heads together and figure out how to trade for Anthony Davis and also bring in another superstar. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, guys, let's begin with those Lakers versus the Warriors. 127-101, that was the final score, and the first time LA has gotten a win in Oakland since December 2012. But guys, the big story, LeBron James leaving the game with what they're calling a groin injury.
I don't think that that's that big a story, because the Lakers are not favored to win the championship this season. If we want to approach LeBron James's injury from any angle of seriousness, then we'll say maybe that's a sign of things to come. I believe that the result of that Christmas Day game was more major if we analyze it from the Golden State side. There's something going on in that locker room still. That team does not have the mojo that they've had the previous 2 years. I believe the league has caught up to them to a degree. I would still pick them to win a championship, but if they do not, it would not surprise me at all.
He's considered day-to-day. Let's hear from LeBron.
How much pride do you take in just being so durable? And what has been the key for that?
I take a lot of pride in it, so that's why it pissed me off not to be able to go back into the game. It's more
Bet money LeBron James would have found his ass back in the game if he only had 8 points or 9 points instead of having double figures, because at least he can keep his streak going. Bet money had LeBron only had 9 points, he would have found his way back into the game. That man would have lumbered back to the locker room, looked at the stat sheet, and said, "I'm going back in, coach." Luke Walton would have said, "LeBron, what are you talking about? You got a torn groin muscle." "I'm okay. Just post me up. I just need a layup. That's all I need." He looked at Lonzo. "Lonzo, feed me the rock. I got 1 basket left in me." The announcer would be like, "LeBron James has the basketball. He looks like he can barely move. Oh my God, I heard a rip. LeBron James made a basketball. He's on the floor in a full split. What is going on?" LeBron James has no more groin cartilage at all. Oh my goodness, he's in a full split on the ground. They're bringing out the gurney. You see them? They're taking LeBron James off the court. They're taking LeBron James off the court in a stretcher. He putting up that one thumb in the air. My streak is still alive. Play on, guys.
More than anything, being available to my teammates, being available to my coaching staff. That's something I take more personal than anything. So
look at LeBron. LeBron like, shit. I have plans with 3-4 holes tonight. I can't even do my thing now. Shit.
Hopefully it's not a long thing, and I can get back on the floor as soon as possible.
I hope everything is okay. But if you guys take a break, he deserves a break, and we got to hold it down.
Yeah, I've never seen him hurt. I was a little shocked and couldn't believe it, but
look at these guys, Tyson Chandler and Rajon Rondo. These are two players who have beaten LeBron James in the playoffs. So now they have to play the we worship LeBron James role while they're playing with him.
I know it's a serious injury, and obviously he wouldn't sit out a game, if anything. So it was very serious, and I knew once that happened, my mindset changed a little bit as far as being more dominant with the ball and try to be more aggressive, making plays for my teammates.
Now the bigger injury is going to be Rajon Rondo having to have surgery on that hand. That's an even bigger injury than LeBron James, because one would have expected Rajon Rondo to carry the torch while LeBron is gone. Now everything's going to be pushed on Lonzo Ball. And now last night, Kyle Kuzma goes down with a back injury in their loss to the OKC Thunder. So where are things going to go for the Lakers?
So LeBron will have an MRI today to determine the severity of that groin injury. But you saw a lot of other guys stepping up, Max, when he was out after the third quarter. How much trouble are the Lakers in if he's injured badly?
They're not in much of any trouble because the expectations for them this season are very low.
They're in trouble for as long as he's out, of course. This is a LeBron James who, he has more talent around him a lot of times than in Cleveland last year, where...
Absolutely.
I do this system, Ryan. I go 5 stars as an MVP candidate, caliber player. 4 is an all-star, 3 is a starter, 2 is a rotation piece, 1 is a replacement player.
And 0.5 is you, Ryan Hollins.
Ryan, replacement player.
No, Ryan was a 0.5.
Okay, that's where we're going. We're going already.
I know. Well,
A scrub-a-dub-dub.
I'm just saying. So
I played minutes in the NBA, Max.
Ryan and I go way back. So the point is, when you look at LeBron now, last year when the playoffs came around, he said, "Damn, the guys were hurt. He's a 5-star guy. Kevin Love is a 4-star-ish guy. They don't even have another 3 on the team. Bunch of 2.5s, 2.5. You look around now, you go, okay, LeBron, you got 3s. I see a lot of NBA starters around.
There are a lot of 3s on his team. As a matter of fact, there are some 3.5s on his team right now. Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram. They're in between that 3.0 and 3.5 rating on your scale, Max Kellerman. So no excuses for LeBron James. Assuming that he comes back, Rajon Rondo comes back, they make a run. I expect them to challenge for the Western Conference Finals. If they go out in the second round to say a Houston or an OKC in 7 games, then I'll say okay. But I expect them to get to the conference finals.
Around you. That's good. You have some depth there, but not a single 4. There's not a single other all-star on the team. And in the Western Conference, still, if you look at the West, you need to have an all-star on your team if you actually want to win games. I'm not talking about compete. I mean win. Guys, this is not the Celtics last year. Gordon Hayward goes down, Kyrie goes down, there are minutes to go around, and so you have Tatum and Brown stepping up. Oh my God, these guys are amazing. Kuzma's excellent. He is not Tatum.
Actually, yes, he is. But that's Max Kellerman, the LeBron James superfan, trying to make excuses for LeBron James already. Kyle Kuzma is at the very least as good as Jason Tatum, and offensively, I believe that he's better.
Ingram could be a Brown level kind of guy, maybe, but who's out?
Brandon Ingram is also better than Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is having a terrible season. I'm just going by their output right now. I'm not going by their measurable metrics of leaping ability and athleticism and so on and so forth. Now, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are probably playing better defense than Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma. At least one would expect, but the Lakers are playing very good overall team defense, or at least they were up until about 2 weeks ago.
Al Horford. There's not another guy there, an all-star caliber player to actually get you W's. So will it be valuable to get some guys' experience come together as a team? All those things, yes, because they're deep. So as they mentioned on the broadcast yesterday, guys need to get minutes. But Can they actually get enough W's to stay? You want to be the 8th seed or a seed that winds up playing the Warriors in the first round? No. LeBron got to get back kind of fast.
It depends on the severity of the injury. And who knows, it could be anything from a groin strain to a torn groin to whatever it may be. I believe that LeBron James likes this, though, because it supplies him with an excuse should they underperform from here on out or go out in the first round in the playoffs.
Listen, Max, this couldn't come at as a more ideal time for the Lakers.
I agree.
Think about their schedule coming up. If LeBron is hurt, let's say it's a groin. I would assume it's a groin and tear. Okay, that's 2 to 3 weeks. And if you look at the schedule, they've got the Kings twice, the Knicks, Minnesota, Dallas, Cleveland, and Chicago.
And they could lose all those games except for Chicago and the Knicks, because Sacramento is just as good as them, if not better. As a matter of fact, Sacramento is right there with them even when they have LeBron James. The Mavericks are right there with them even if they have LeBron James. So none of those games are pushovers, and as we've seen in the aftermath of LeBron's injury, they've lost most of those games.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
If you can't play 500 basketball, there's something wrong. And there's a guy you're not mentioning. He can kind of turn into a 4 a couple times. Rajon Rondo.
Well, as you guys know, this debate occurred before Rajon Rondo went down.
He's a guy, if you watched the Golden State last night, you can put the ball into his hands. He makes other guys better.
Right now, LeBron James is in Miami getting his secret cocktail mixed up by by the stragglers left from Biogenesis. Hey guys, you got any of that good shit left from 2013? I need a dosage, please.
He makes those young guys believe, and they don't have to change their games. And you couldn't quite see Rajon Rondo for who he is while LeBron James is on the floor. But as soon as he got hurt, he showed out. He showed you who he was. And if you get them going and the young guys just play the best basketball they can be, because the beauty of it also, you're not asking Ingram to be something different. You're not asking Kuzma to dribble the basketball. You're not going to ask Lonzo to score the basketball, even though you're going to ask him to be a backup point guard. So there.
Now, right there, Rajon Rondo was able to easily beat Draymond Green to the basket. And certain casual viewers or people who don't watch basketball seriously, they might say, well, that's expected. Rajon is a point guard. Draymond is a 4-man. But in years past, Rajon Rondo nor any other point guard would have been able to as easily beat Draymond to the basket as players are beating Draymond to the basket this season. I've seen a very noticeable diminishing of Draymond Green's quickness, especially in his lateral movement.
They're in good shape.
Well, here's the problem. Playoff Rondo is a real thing for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way,
but is he a 4? Can he be a 4?
Can,
right?
He
Okay.
can. When it matters most, he can be a 4.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. And we're going to talk about James Harden later in the show.
So save it.
But I'm bringing it up as an example. James Harden is not a great shooter. He's a good shooter. He's a very good shooter. He's not a 44% shooter from 3 or anything like that, but he can shoot from distance.
Harden's not a great shooter?
James Harden is a great shooter in the same way that Kobe Bryant was a great shooter. He's a great streak shooter. He's streaky. He's a scorer. I wouldn't call him a shooter. He's a scorer.
No, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those are great shooters. By the way, I'm not making it up. We actually have a record of these events. It's called the shooting percentage. He doesn't shoot 42% from 3. He shoots 35%, 37% from 3.
I'm going to let you finish your point.
He takes a ton of them. A ton of them, right?
Contested ones, too.
That's a good point by Ryan Hollins. Because the shots that James Harden takes, the 3-point shots that he takes, are not off the catch. They're off the dribble. So it's a different level of intensity. But once again, Max Kellerman is correct because James Harden is not a great shooter. Even in the 3-point contest that he competed in, James Harden did not fare well because he's not a naturally gifted shooter. What he is a volume shooter.
Yeah, because he's a good shooter. I'm not saying he's not a good shooter.
Okay.
And by the way, he also winds up on the free throw line a lot, so he's either taking a high percentage shot, which is likely to go in, or he's taking a shot that there's a lot of upside for. Either way, it works. He's in that system. When I look at the Lakers, it's not just that they are not going to take a ton of threes. The reason that they won't is they're not going to hit them enough. You take LeBron out, who's actually developed into a great long-distance three-point shooter.
Yes, he has.
Right? And from certain spots on the floor can be good, even if it's not a pure shot. Rondo shoots much better than he did. He's not a three-point shooter.
For sure.
Lonzo Ball is not a three-point shooter. No. Brandon Ingram is not a three-point shooter. I just mentioned guys who...
I don't know what type of shooter Brandon Ingram is. Nothing against him, but he has not been the same since that dust-up with Chris Paul.
Guys, we're going to get minutes in your rotation, like heavy minutes. These are some of the guys, certainly in Lonzo. You want Rondo to lead you in LeBron's absence. Lonzo and Ingram, you want to develop, and they're going to really be a part of your success if you have any. The point is, none of them shoot it well enough. None of them. And you're in a league now that understands you got to put up a lot of them, and you got to make a lot of them. The Lakers are not in that position, not at the moment.
Look, Max,
Well, they can make it up with hustle and defense, which is what they've been trying to do.
if there's one
Fortunately for them, their team is so young that they can guard the three-point line very well. And then with Tyson Chandler on the back line, they have great rim protection.
If there's one thing you got to realize in today's NBA, everybody ain't Golden State. Everybody's not going to be.
I agree. And it bodes well for a team that understands that, so that they can say to themselves, you know what, let's try to accentuate what we do well as opposed to trying to copycat Golden State.
Going to be firing up contested threes. They had the 3 best shooters in the NBA on that one team. And one thing, Magic, I'm going to give him hats off because he realized, hey, we can't try to beat Golden State, but we can be the best Lakers that we can be, and we can play at a tempo that beats Golden State. And you saw that happen without LeBron last night.
Let me say this very quickly. That matchup between the Lakers and Golden State, should they meet in the playoffs, both teams fully healthy, will be very interesting. And as I've noted in other videos, DeMarcus Boogie Cousins is going to be a necessity. He's going to be a necessity, not just an addition in the playoffs, because these other teams have caught up to Golden State to a degree. The OKCs, even the Rockets to a degree, the Denver Nuggets, the LA Lakers. The disparity between the Golden State Warriors and these other teams is not as great as people think it is. It's not as great as it once was.
You have guys who are capable, and what you want, if you're the Lakers, is playmakers. Rondo can go create a shot for himself or others, potentially. Lonzo can do that. Obviously, he has to be better at finishing on the rim, and we've seen Ingram improve. If they attack downhill and move the basketball around the horn, they have an opportunity to be successful. But the thing that the Lakers were missing that was irritating me earlier in the season, what they started doing when they started succeeding, they stopped hustling. They got 50-50 balls. They blocked shots. They communicated.
They have to play that way to be successful. If the Lakers don't hustle, they can't win. If they don't get those 50-50 balls, they can't win. If they don't offensive rebound, they cannot win. If they don't defensive rebound, getting stops, they're not going to beat teams like Golden State or the Rockets or OKC.
Everything's settled down. Obviously, we attribute Tyson Chandler to that, but those young guys are playing better basketball. KCP takes some wild shots. Last night, he played.
He's going to help them during the playoffs because he's one of the few players that they have who can actually make a three-point shot if he's open. So KCP is going to be very important, assuming that they don't make a major trade for an Anthony Davis or somebody like that. He's going to be a major component for their team in the playoffs. The Lakers will be a dangerous playoff team, especially if they're facing another team that can't really shoot very well, like an OKC Thunder. OKC does not shoot the ball well either. That will be a very, very rugged playoff matchup.
Play within themselves, get in the lane, knock down a little floater, run the lane, knock down your open three-point shot. If those guys play within themselves, they're going to be okay. But I say that, and I bring up Rondo because Rondo's a guy, Max, that will actually allow them to be themselves. I don't need KCP to be a ball handler if Rondo's on the floor.
See what you're doing? You're right. I love the idea because at first when they started making these acquisitions after LeBron, you go, wait, where are the shooters? Are you kidding? And then when they started explaining, no, we're zigging when everyone else is zagging. Everyone always wants, the usage rate for LeBron is so high, the ball's always in his hands, it's just him and a bunch of shooters. We're going to have other guys who can make plays. Okay.
That's been my point for the longest time. So many of these teams are trying to out Golden State. It's like trying to out hand speed Muhammad Ali. You cannot out hand speed Muhammad Ali. You have to defeat him with tactics. That's how Ken Norton beat him. That's how Joe Frazier beat him. They both had the same coach, by the way, or at least I should say the same Svengali, Mr. Eddie Futch. He was the mastermind behind the game plan to defeat Ali. That's why both those fighters were so successful, even though neither one of them were as physically gifted as Ali. That's what these teams need. They need a coach who's going to think outside the box and develop tactics to try to coerce Golden State into doing things that they're not comfortable with. Whenever you want to beat a great performer, you have to try to prompt him or her to do things that they're not comfortable with.
okay, that's fine. If LeBron is there, he can be the engine that makes it all happen, like a super duper James Harden for the Lakers,
Max,
who can elevate everyone else. But if he's not there, what happens?
But isn't this part of the deal where you want to see those guys succeed? You want to see them step up? Maybe LeBron can sit back and say, I'm going to trust those guys. Right?
Ryan, what team do I root for? I sold my Knicks out a long time ago.
You sold your Knicks out for the Lakers.
Don't listen.
I didn't believe it.
I am a Lakers fan. Of course I want it to work. I'm giving you the straight dope right now. The guys you just mentioned, KCP, let's throw Josh Hart in there, and Kuzma. All those guys can shoot, right?
Not quite, but continue on.
If you want to actually win games, those guys are going to have to be high usage guys. The problem is...
No, they're going to have to be high proficiency guys. That's what they're going to have to be. It's not about how many threes they're going to take. It's about how many they're going to make in comparison to how many they take.
You also have to develop, and on your team who's going to get heavy minutes, you're going to automatically rely on Rondo because he'll be the leader, but also Lonzo and Ingram, who can't. They don't have enough shooting to win without LeBron on the floor. That only works if LeBron's on the floor.
The one thing I will credit Lonzo with?
You know, they act like the Lakers only won 15 games last year. The Lakers won 35 games last year in the regular season. And Lonzo Ball missed about 25 games. Had Lonzo played every game last season, they would have won about 41, 42 games. And that's without LeBron James. So let's give the talent level on their squad a bit more credit.
He's not going to miss the shot that will beat you. The one thing the shots that Lonzo is taking, he's not losing. They're not losing games because of him. Philly is losing games because Ben Simmons doesn't shoot. Giannis doesn't, you know what I'm saying?
We can run down real quick.
When are these NBA pundits going to start scrutinizing Ben Simmons a bit more? Because it's an embarrassment. It's like, dude, you're 22, 23 years old. You're supposedly the next up-and-coming superstar point guard in the league, and you can't make a mid-range jump shot. I mean, this dude shoots like a 70-year-old man with cerebral palsy. It's like, what the hell is that?
Quick, Zubac. That's no joke.
Zubac. But hey, and that's a problem.
Zubac would be a nice backup center on a good team.
That's a problem that's a Warriors problem.
But actually, this is another issue on the Lakers where an injury to other players could actually maybe, knock wood, that doesn't happen, be a good thing because they are so deep, so guys get minutes. The one player who cannot get injured is LeBron. That's it. That's the only guy who can get
perfect time. Look at the roster. Look who they got. This is the perfect time.
The Warriors are so weak in the middle. They had Zubac out there looking like Patrick Ewing. And I'm sorry, Kevon Looney is not an NBA player. That dude is not an NBA player.
Timing is good for them then. Yeah. The timing is good.
And he takes care of himself so well, you have to believe that he'll be back as soon as possible. 7 different guys last night in double figures for the Lakers. So if there was a time for everyone else to step up, it was last night against the Warriors. We didn't even get to the fact that the Warriors picked up their 12th straight loss.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go for Mr. LeBron James and the LA Lakers. We'll see how severe that injury is and if there's a trickle-down effect over the course of the rest of the regular season into the playoffs. I do think that injury that he suffered may be a harbinger of things to come, but we'll find out. So peace.